So, folks, sadly, we live in Hell World, and this is going to be a bit of a rough segment. But reporting broke today, courtesy of Mary Margaret Olahan, that the Justice Department is looking at ways to strip transgender Americans of their right to firearms. And this is a multi-layered problem, because in order to strip trans people in America of their Second Amendment rights, the Department of Justice would have to essentially have a change made to what constitutes being mentally ill to the point of being incompetent enough to be denied a firearm. And if they do this, basically it is going to affect every facet of trans life in the United States. It could be having this designation put on trans people could effectively bar trans people from many types of employment. Basically, the argument being gender dysphoria is a mental illness, and therefore anyone with the diagnosis of, gender dysphoria should be barred from owning a firearm. And this is a pretty big deal. In part, I know there are going to be some people out there who are like, oh, well, I don't need a gun, so there. And that's fine if you don't need a gun. But understand that this is an attack on your fundamental, constitutional rights. This is a method of dehumanization. It's a way to turn you into someone whose rights can be violated at will with no legal recourse. That is what this is effectively. On the surface, it is just about the guns, but if you dig deeper, this has a very wide range of effects that can affect everything from the assistance you get to your health care to, everything along those lines. And Mary Margaret Olahan says, I'm told that a senior DOJ official said, discussing the matter, quote, "We're not playing semantics with words like dysphoria. We're talking about trannies, and we don't think they should have guns," unquote. So people at the highest levels of power within the Department of Justice are using slurs for trans people while talking about whether or not we deserve rights. Yeah, I mean, there's an aspect of that too, tired and trans. Reads as a way to disarm us and make it so we can't at all protect ourselves. Yes, right? That is another way that this is in effect, right? What is maybe one of the more heinous parts about this is that they are using the Minneapolis shooting as a pretext to do this, despite the fact that if you dig into the shooter's writings, the shooter had previously planned to shoot a trans music venue in Minneapolis, but ultimately decided against it because of the prevalence of armed trans people at an event like that. And so, they're talking about this. I want to underscore that there is no reality to what they are putting forward. Even if we were to draw up the numbers, which I'm not going to do because I don't want to engage that much with their fantasy, but understand that it is a fantasy. Conservatives are fantasizing that trans people are doing mass shootings because it's way easier for them to deal with than the truth, which is that the overwhelming majority, 99.9% of mass shootings are done by white cis men with a chip on their shoulder. They don't want to deal with that. They don't want to deal with the fact that the prevalence of guns in this country keeps making mass shootings easier and easier for our lone individuals to do. And so aside from that, okay, say that this is in fact passed. How are you going to enforce this? Are you going to have gun store owners doing genital inspections before doing a sale? Are you going to be publicizing private health information to every gun dealer in the United States? How exactly is this going to work? In a way, it's almost completely unenforceable. But it's also, again, an attempt to signal that they want to make us subhuman. And again, I don't know if this is actually going to get any traction or not. I just, with this administration, it can go either way. You know, it can go either way when it comes to what the Trump administration is going to do. Is it just chest beating? Like, what exactly is it? Who can say? It's just so frustrating. Like, as a trans person who covers the news, who gets up day after day, every single day, I wake up and I wade through shit where people are basically arguing that I'm less of a person. And people like me are less of a person. And it's so frustrating. And to see the Democratic Party go along with even some of this is, I mean, it is immensely difficult to reckon with. The news is depressing, indeed, Lauren Alexander. Yeah, and that's the thing, Josh, that a lot of people on the conservative end of the spectrum need to realize, because a lot of them are like clapping like trained seals about this, like, yeah, ban those trans people from having guns. The reality is, if they can classify trans people as a mental illness, they can classify literally any group of people as having a mental illness that need to be disarmed and treated differently by the governing laws of this country, right? Like, that's what they are testing out here. This is never something that just stops with trans people. Yeah, if they can take guns away from trans people, they're going to be doing a lot of other shit that violate your fundamental constitutional rights. This administration did say Trump derangement syndrome is a mental illness. I mean, yeah, they think that liberals are literally crazed, demon-possessed monsters. That's a not insignificant portion of like the Republican Party believes that. This would be my red line if this happens. Me and every trans person I know that can mobilize are leaving the country by any means. I mean, yeah, it is one of those situations where, like, if they realize that they can take away your constitutional right to guns by calling you mentally ill, it's not much more than a hop and a step away from they can deny you your medical care. One of the things I find deeply frustrating. By the way, Mary Margaret Olahan is a reporter for the Daily Wire. Quote, individuals within the DOJ are reviewing ways to ensure that mentally ill individuals suffering from gender dysphoria are unable to obtain firearms while they are unstable and unwell, one source inside the Justice Department tells me. You know, this is from the Daily Wire. Take it with some grains of salt. But also, basically what they're trying to say is that you can't become well by essentially detransitioning. They want to incentivize detransition so that, you know, oh, you can't buy guns until you become detrans. It is a disgusting state of affairs here for trans people in America. Oh shit, they're going to use mental health laws. That is the path forward for doing this. Yeah, they might try other ways, but like the most obvious path is mental health. It is worth noting, depressing as it is, that the first and largest book burning carried out by the Nazis was books about queer sexuality and trans issues. Absolutely. Some of the most famous images of book burnings are from that book burning. I detransitioned. It's not a recipe for mental well-being, I can assure you. It is absolutely not a recipe for that. Quit being mentally ill, then we'll consider you having a firearm. Justice is coming. You wouldn't know justice if it came up to you and said hello. You wouldn't know justice if you looked across and to the table, dude. The cruelty is the point. They want to see us all suffer. I mean, it's cruelty and it's power, right? Like, oh, football desk, you are welcome to come and try and take those guns from my hands. We'll see how well that goes for you, gun or not. Of course, they didn't care about mental health and guns at all until a scary trans person did something. Yeah, it's really weird, isn't it? How the moment it became convenient for them, they abandoned all of their values. It's almost like conservatives never believed in anything other than their bigotry. It's crazy, right? Cruelty is power to these losers. I mean, that is true, right? They have no other concept of what power can be used for other than by hurting other people. You wouldn't know justice if it came in your ass. Who said that? Oh, God. Are we going to survive this? I think so. You know, we've survived everything else up to this point. they can't very well succeed. But this is, I guess, one of your formal warnings to make sure you have paperwork or your passport or get like an enhanced ID or something. Get some kind of documentation that would allow you to get the fuck out of here if you need to. And I know that's not an option for everyone, but this is like an advice on an individual level. Have a rough idea of what you might do if this all goes really, really poorly. We shouldn't leave, though. We shouldn't. But also, I'm saying if things get worse, like a lot worse. And I'm just saying, look, some people are going to be willing to like stay here and fight, and that's great. Other people are going to want to have like a backup to get themselves and their family out. Some people are going to want to get their kids out. Can you claim asylum without a passport? I think you just have to be in another country. If we don't all stay, we all lose. That's not true. All I'm saying is it is a good time to get that paperwork. Yeah, asylum is not citizenship, yada, yada, yada. I find it very depressing that this is all happening on the backdrop of attempting to conceal the history of denying Holocaust victims asylum. It's going to happen again. Yeah. Look, I'm not saying like have like buy a property, like make sure you're renting in the right vineyard of France. I'm just saying like have the paperwork to go ready. And the paperwork is really just the kind of ID that lets you pass into another country and the kind of passport that lets you go into another country. That's it. Any tips on how allies can help out? Go to the fucking protests. Go to your local city council meetings. You know, go make sure your city or town or state has like laws to keep trans people safe. This is why after the election, I started encouraging trans people to get out of red states and get into states with explicit legal protections on the books. Like we're seeing a pretty bad case scenario. Maybe not worst case, but it's pretty bad. And sadly, folks, and this is the reality, in order to go and claim asylum, things have to get a lot more materially worse for trans people. Most countries don't even have the asylum system open for us because we're Americans. I would advise not making Canada a permanent home if you can help it coming here. Things are getting worse here as well, but it's safer than the US. I mean, that's kind of the thing, right? Like if we need to go, we aren't going to be able to pick and choose and be choosy about our options. It's either Canada or Mexico. So whichever one you're closer to. And from there, if you need to go someplace else, maybe you can, but cynical me thinks it won't even matter as you can't outrun global economic and environmental collapse. These depressing thoughts have been happening more and more as of late to me. I mean, I think it does matter in a pretty material sense to people who are being targeted by their government. Exactly, Forlorn 79. It's not like a, where shall I go on my vacation? Maybe I will go to the Mongolian steppe. Like no, like we don't got options. I don't feel good. Yeah, I don't feel good either. That being said, we have to take these things one step at a time and look at what we actually have control over. I would recommend not panicking. And as I've said, go and get your passport or get your like enhanced ID, whatever kind of like identification will allow you to travel into another country. That's what you need in order to like get out if things get really bad. Nowhere is perfect and immediate safety is extremely important. Exactly, radicalize me. Like there are a lot of people who are like, oh man, things might be really bad in this other country in like 10 years. And it's like, that's 10 years later, guys. You can figure out that problem in 10 years. It's the time to go for your safety could be now, you know? And that's if things get worse here. Like we're not at like the worst case scenario where we have to leave yet. Leaving is not an option. It is an option, actually. It's an option for many people who might need to prioritize, for example, the safety of their children. Are you willing to kill your kids for your principles? Other people aren't. That's on an individual basis, people are going to have to make that choice, but they deserve to be able to make that choice, which is why you should be able to get your paperwork together now. What are you talking about killing kids? Because some trans people are children. Some trans people are kids. Trans people can be teenagers or young adults. And they're going to be hit hardest by what the regime is doing when it comes to trans people. They want to start with the most vulnerable group of people, trans kids. You think the current administration is going to unalive children? They're already unaliving children. Have you seen like Florida's like vaccine ban? Like they're already suppressing life-saving medical interventions for children. Like they are more than willing and have demonstrated a willingness to refuse medical treatment to trans kids. The capacity for this to get much worse is very real. This is fear-mongering. You're just doing the work for them. Man, I don't know what to tell you. Look into what they're doing in Florida. It's not fear-mongering when the place that indicates the mainstream policy of the GOP is ending vaccines for children in schools. None of that is unaliving children. Do you know what the death rate of measles was before vaccines? Do you have any the fuck idea what you're talking about? Yeah, since when has a lack of vaccines ever hurt anyone? What's that about the Black Death? Everyone was fine back then. It was only a third of Europe. It's fine. Only mass slaughter of children who got it. But it's fine, actually. Nobody brought up vaccines but you, because they're already implementing health policy with massively negative health outcomes for children. And they already have tried numerous times to outlaw medical treatment for trans kids. That kills trans kids. I don't know how much more direct I can be. If you outlaw treatment for trans people to transition, that kills people. I don't know what the fuck you're on. Do you not understand that? Like, the association I'm making here is that, hey, in Florida, the place where they test all of these policies, they're already implementing policies that massively negatively impact the lives of children. Just in general. They've already outlawed healthcare for trans kids in Florida. Kids have already died from this. No one was talking about people going door to door but you, AF Chris. Like, I'm trying to make a point that if a state is willing to massively harm the children in said state, in general, they're willing to harm a minority of children.
Right beside a graveyard.
No, you may not, Knifeiest Duck.
Early 1800s to early 1900s. Half the graves were of people under 13. Vaccines probably would have saved most of them.
Yep. So the point I'm making is that a healthcare mandate from the GOP-controlled state has already gone into effect in Florida, massively decreasing the quality of life and shortening the lifespans of many of the children there. Okay? Yes. AF Chris, I'm going to make my argument, okay? I need you to listen very carefully. The GOP controls Florida. Florida implemented a set of healthcare procedures in Florida to remove mandates around vaccines. That's something that they want to do in general. In specific, they also stripped trans children of their healthcare rights to receive transition care in Florida. On top of that, what I'm trying to make, the through line I'm trying to make here, is that the government is trying to strip trans people of the right to get healthcare, even if they are adults. This is something that they have already tried to do and failed to do, but they are continuing to try to do it. If they designate trans people as being mentally ill and incompetent to the point where they can subvert constitutional rights and protections to the Second Amendment, then we are talking about a world in which they can effectively strip trans people of every constitutional right. So what I'm trying to say is they do not care if trans kids die as a result of this. They do not care if trans people die as a result of this. Because when you were talking about subverting the constitutional right to like the Second Amendment, you're also talking about subverting every right that secures your liberty as a human being. Whether that is liberty of person, liberty of thought, liberty of expression, it threatens all of it the same. And what I'm trying to tell you is that some of those people who have their rights infringed are going to be children, and some of them are going to die as a result of these infringements, whether it's because they get put into some kind of camp, whether it is because they are denied healthcare outright and cannot transition. This is going to kill children. Whether it is the state going door to door with officers, which is unlikely, or far more likely that they are pushed to a point of suicide. And what I'm saying here is that if you are the parent of a trans child and those changes happen, I do not fault you for taking your children to get trans care in another country. Because you're leaving the country, but you're doing it to save your kids. And you are the one here being like, well, those families should stay and fight for their rights. And I'm telling you right now, if someone is leaving this country to save their child's life, I do not fault them at all. At all. And there are going to be some people who are in positions where they are going to have to consider whether or not they give their life to fight for rights in this country or not. And I do not fault anyone for saying, I don't want to die and leaving. And I don't think you get the right to demand the lives of other people's children. I don't think you get the right to demand the lives of other people in this country. If you want to stay and fight at the cost of your own life, you can make that happen. You have the ability to do that. Other people aren't going to want to make that sacrifice of their kids, of their brothers, of themselves. Other people aren't going to want to make that sacrifice, and I don't blame them. I don't think you get the right to tell people to abandon their own homes. I'm not telling people to abandon their homes. I'm telling them, have the paperwork you need to flee the country if that's what you want to do. If you don't want to have the paperwork, you don't have to. If you don't want to flee the country, you don't have to. But I think every single person deserves the ability to make that choice for themselves. I didn't say everyone. All right. Gonna move right along past that one. Fighting for their rights is a nice sentiment and all that sentiment, but doesn't make that hard decision of your safety or your child's safety. Exactly. If some people might need to flee the country, other people might not. Either way, you deserve the right to make that choice. It's not complicated. I don't believe in doomer posting, but this news is very grim. So just be aware of what is happening, folks, for your own survival, and please do the work of getting the paperwork you need ready, just in case. It could help you, could help someone you know. Do the little bit of extra work. Will there be a point where it's too late, i.e. we can't leave? Well, there is a possibility of that, Queen Matriarch. But that is, again, we're talking absolute worst case scenario. We aren't close to that yet. But what I am saying is that you should get the paperwork you need ready if things become measurably worse. Yeah, exactly, Small Moth. Be prepared for the worsening situation, but don't doomer and be realistic about where we are. The paperwork does, in fact, take time. You don't just, go in and they're like, oh, cool, here's your passport. It can take a while. Similarly, if you don't feel comfortable applying for a passport, there are other forms of documentation that can get you across a border. Look into it. Think of it as an emergency bag for fires or hurricanes. You may not need it, but just have it in case. Exactly, Sweet Myths. It's a really scary topic, and I don't blame trans people for being on edge or angry. It's an infuriating state of affairs.
Riverboat Jack is coming to town. All the viewers gather around. Twitch and YouTube and swishy streams. All that content is bursting the seams. Politics, gaming, and plenty more. Your sense of fashion you'll adore. So grab your stuff and hop aboard. We're going straight to Jack's Discord. Riverboat Jack.